I never expected that helping my sister would lead to one of the biggest betrayals of my life. Janet lost her job a year ago when her company laid off nearly half its staff. She tried freelancing for a while, but it didn't pay well, and before long she couldn't afford rent. She was evicted. With no other options, she turned to me. I wasn't particularly close with Janet. We were siblings, sure, but we weren't best friends or anything. Still, she was struggling and I felt sorry for her. Our mother lived far away with our brother, so I was Janet's only family nearby. So I did what any decent sibling would do. I let her move in. For the past year she lived in my house rent-free. She never paid a dime. Never helped with the bills. Never contributed to groceries. Not once did she offer to help around the house. My husband and I treated her like family. And this is how she repaid me. At first I let things slide. I told myself she's going through a rough time. But then I started noticing things. Over the last few months she stopped even pretending to look for work. Yet somehow, she always had money to go out with friends. She wasn't struggling anymore. She just wasn't trying. I started nudging her, asking if she'd looked for jobs, suggesting places that were hiring. Every time, she brushed me off. "I just don't want to work some miserable job I hate," she'd say. Or, "I'm still figuring things out. Stop pressuring me." She was burning through her savings and relying on the money Mom sent her every month like an allowance. I found it ridiculous. Janet was in her mid-20s and still being babied. I told Mom she needed to stop sending Janet money. It was keeping her lazy. Mom disagreed. "She just needs time," she said. Time? He had a year. Then last month I found out I was pregnant. My husband and I realized Janet couldn't stay with us anymore. We needed her room for the baby. But before I even had to bring it up, fate took care of things for me. Janet's boyfriend, Caleb, reached out to me. He had been planning to propose and asked for my help picking out a ring. They had been together for 4 years, and despite Janet's lack of direction, he had always been supportive of her. "We've both had a rough year," he admitted. "She was laid off and I was too. I only just found a stable job a few months ago." He had a plan. After proposing, he wanted to stay with his parents a little longer, save up money, and then get an apartment so Janet could move in with him. That's when I saw my opportunity. "Why wait?" I suggested. "Find an apartment now. Move in first, then propose. That way when you pop the question she'll already have a place to go." He hesitated. "I just don't know if I can afford it yet." I didn't even blink. "I'll cover Janet's half of the rent for the first few months until she finds a job." It was a win-win. Caleb got to move forward with his plans, Janet got a fresh start, and I got my house back before the second trimester. He agreed. Within weeks he found an apartment. He proposed. And Janet? She moved out. Everything went exactly as I had planned. Until it didn't. At first I thought things were fine. Janet was happier than ever. She had a ring on her finger, a new home, and a fiancé who adored her. But then, something changed. She stopped answering my texts. Conversations got shorter. Colder. I felt it in my gut. Something was wrong. And then, she didn't invite me to her engagement party. I only found out about it when I saw the pictures on social media. Janet. Laughing, drinking, celebrating. Surrounded by friends and family. Everyone except me. I called her immediately. "Why wasn't I invited?" Her voice was flat. "Because I didn't want you there." I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. "After everything I did for you?" She snorted. "You didn't do anything. If anything, you just pressured me and made my life more stressful. Honestly, I'm relieved to be gone. I don't want to talk to you anymore." And then, she blocked me. I was shaking with rage. After everything I had done for her, I let her live with me for free. I covered her expenses. I put up with her entitlement, her laziness, her complete lack of respect. And now she was acting like I was the problem? Fine. If she wanted me out of her life, then I would be out of her life. Which meant no more financial help. I picked up the phone and called Caleb. "Hey," I said, my voice calm but cold. "Just wanted to let you know. I'm pulling out of our deal. I won't be paying for Janet's rent anymore. She's on her own." Caleb was silent for a long moment. "Wait, what? What happened?" "You should ask your fiancé," I said. "Oh, and good luck covering for her." And then I hung up. Janet wanted to act like I was nothing to her? Well, now she could figure things out without me. The morning after I cut off Janet's rent support, my phone was already buzzing with calls. I ignored them at first, assuming it was Caleb trying to reason with me. I wasn't interested. But when the calls didn't stop, I finally picked up. Are you serious? Caleb's voice was tight, laced with frustration. You really pulled the plug on Janet's rent? Without even talking to me first. I exhaled sharply. I don't owe Janet anything, Caleb. She wanted me out of her life. So, congratulations, now she gets to handle her own problems. You put me in a terrible position, he shot back. I just moved in. I budgeted everything assuming you were going to help, and now I have to cover for her while she figures things out. I didn't have the patience for this. That's your problem now. Not mine. There was a long silence. Then, softer, he asked, what the hell even happened between you two? Janet won't tell me. I scoffed. Of course she won't. She knows she looks like an ungrateful brat. She blocked me after I called her out for not even inviting me to her engagement party. Caleb let out a slow breath. Damn. Yeah. Damn. Another pause, then, I just wish you'd given me a heads up. I don't have the extra cash right now. I leaned back against the counter, feeling a tiny pang of guilt. Caleb had always been a decent guy. He'd never treated me badly. Jenna was the problem. But I couldn't undo my decision now. I get that. Look, I'll tell you what, if Janet finds a job, I want my money back. Every cent I covered for her. She doesn't get a free ride anymore. That's fair, he said after a pause. But I don't know if she'll go for it. Then that's on her. 2 days later, Janet unblocked me. At first it started with text. I'm sorry. Then, can we talk? And finally, please don't do this to me. I left her on read. Then came the voicemails. Her voice was thick with forced humility. Look, I know I messed up, okay? But you really screwed me over, and I just don't get why you're being so heartless. I mean, I'm your sister. You can't just abandon me like this. I could feel the anger bubbling under my skin. Abandon her? She abandoned me the second she acted like I was disposable. The next voicemail came a few hours later. She wasn't pretending to be calm anymore. You have no idea what you've done. Caleb is furious with me. He thinks I'm a selfish brat because of the way you told him things. You ruined my relationship. Are you happy now? I smirked. Oh, so now I was useful again? I didn't respond. And that's when Mom got involved. That night my phone rang. I debated not picking up. But I knew if I ignored her, she'd just keep calling. You need to fix this, she said the second I answered. I let out a humorless laugh. Fix what? You went behind Janet's back and set her up just so you could get rid of her, Mom accused. You could have just talked to her instead of manipulating her out of your house. I rolled my eyes. I did talk to her, Mom. Over and over. She didn't want to listen. But did you really have to pull the rug out from under her like that? Caleb can barely afford that apartment on his own. You're punishing him too. Not my problem, I said coolly. Janet made it clear she wanted nothing to do with me. I'm just respecting her wishes. Mom sighed. You know what? Fine. But what you did was petty and it makes our entire family look bad. I clenched my jaw. I don't care. You should. You're acting like you don't have a family. Mom, I said, my voice low. Janet made it clear that I'm not her family. She didn't just forget to invite me, she intentionally cut me out. And you expect me to keep financing her life like nothing happened? Well, I'm done. She was silent for a long time. Then quietly she said, You'll regret this. I exhaled. No, Mom. For the first time in a long time. I won't. And then I hung up. For the next few days my phone was eerily silent. No more calls. No more texts. I knew exactly what was happening. Janet was scrambling. She had expected me to cave. To feel guilty. To swoop in and fix her mess like I always had. But when I didn't, she was forced to face the consequences of her choices. Then out of nowhere I got a call from Caleb. I hesitated for a moment, then picked up. Hey, he said, his voice tight. I need to talk to you about Janet. I sighed. Caleb, I already told you. No, listen. She left. I paused. She what? She packed up and left the apartment. She said she couldn't take the stress, that I was making her feel guilty, and she'd rather stay with Mom for a while. I let out a dry laugh. Wow. So she ran away the second things got difficult. Pretty much. And the best part? She didn't even tell me. I came home from work and all her stuff was gone. She left a note saying she needed space. I didn't even try to hide my smirk. Karma. So what do you want from me, Caleb? I asked. She's your problem now. I don't know what to do, he admitted. I've been paying for everything on my own. She barely even tried looking for a job. And now she just vanishes? I thought she loved me, but it's like the second things got hard, she bailed. I could hear the pain in his voice, and for a second I actually felt bad for him. But he was learning the hard way. I don't know what to tell you, I said. But I think you just found out exactly who you're about to marry. There was a long silence. Then quietly he said, yeah. I think I did. The next day Mom called again. I let it go to voicemail. Then another call. And another. By the fourth one I gave in. What now? I answered. Your sister is heartbroken, Mom said immediately, her voice thick with emotion. She had to come stay with me because Caleb turned on her. He's blaming her for everything. He's questioning the engagement. I shrugged. Sounds like that's between them. This is getting out of hand. Janet is devastated and Caleb is about to call off the wedding. I sighed. And? Mom let out a sharp breath. Don't you care at all? No, Mom. I don't. Janet did this to herself. But she's your sister. I gritted my teeth. Was she my sister when she called me useless? When she blocked me? When she treated me like garbage after I spent a year supporting her? Silence. Exactly, I said. You want me to fix this? No. I'm done cleaning up Janet's messes. You can comfort her all you want, but I'm not getting involved. Mom's voice wavered. She misses you. I shook my head. She misses what I did for her. That's not the same thing. And then I hung up. I didn't hear from Caleb again after that. A week later, I saw on social media that he had canceled the engagement. Janet? Nowhere to be seen. I guess she really did run back to Mom's place. Good. Let her stay there. For the first time in a long time I felt free. No more phone calls. No more obligations. No more Janet. And honestly, felt damn good. The peace didn't last long. It had only been a week since Caleb called off the engagement when I got a text from Janet. At first I ignored it. Then another came. And another. Then she called. I let it go to voicemail. A few minutes later a new message popped up. Please just hear me out. That night, just as I was settling in, there was a knock at my door. I had a sinking feeling before I even checked. Sure enough, Janet. She stood there looking nothing like the self-important, smug person who had blocked me weeks ago. Her makeup was smudged, her hair in a messy bun, and her eyes were red and swollen. I need to talk to you, she said, voice shaking. I crossed my arms. I don't see what we have to talk about. She let out a sharp breath. Caleb broke up with me. Mom is furious. Everything is falling apart. I have nowhere to go. I raised an eyebrow. That's not my problem. Janet's eyes flashed with desperation. You can't seriously just throw me away like this. We're family. I laughed bitterly. Oh, now we're family? Were we family when you blocked me? When you told me I was useless? When you excluded me from your own engagement party? She bit her lip. I was wrong. I was an idiot. I see that now. Do you? Or do you just regret losing Caleb and running out of people to use? She flinched, but she didn't deny it. Please, she whispered. I know I don't deserve anything from you. But I don't have anywhere else to go. I messed up. I was selfish. I was cruel. And now I have no one. I studied her. For the first time she actually looked like she understood. For a brief moment I almost caved. Almost. But then I thought about the year I spent supporting her. The way she threw me aside the second she didn't need me anymore. Janet, I said slowly. You're right. You messed up. And I hope you learn from it. But I'm not your safety net anymore. Her breath hitched. You won't even let me stay for a little while? Just until I get back on my feet. I shook my head. No. Tears welled up in her eyes. So that's it? You're just done with me. I'm done being treated like I don't matter, I said simply. I hope you figure things out, Janet. But you'll have to do it without me. She stood there for a long moment like she couldn't believe I was actually saying no. Then finally she wiped at her eyes and nodded. Okay. She turned and walked away. And for the first time in my life, I didn't feel guilty. Janet didn't reach out again after that night. At first, I expected another barrage of texts. More pleading. Maybe even another dramatic visit. But she didn't come back. I thought I'd feel relieved, and in a way I did. But there was something else, too: finality. She had been such a constant presence in my life, even when she was nothing but a source of stress. No. She was gone. A few days later, Mom called. I almost ignored it, but something in me, morbid curiosity maybe, made me pick up. "I hope you're happy," she said, skipping straight to the guilt trip. "Your sister is struggling." I sighed, already exhausted. "And that's my problem because she's been staying with me, but she's miserable. She doesn't have a job, she barely talks to me, and now Caleb won't even return her calls. I don't know what to do with her." I pinched the bridge of my nose. Maybe she should try doing something for herself for once. "Oh, don't act so righteous," Mom snapped. "You could have helped her, but you let her crash and burn instead." I let out a humorless laugh. "No, Mom. I let her face the consequences of her own actions. That's not the same thing." She scoffed. "You really don't care, do you?" I was quiet for a moment. Then I said, "Not anymore." Mom exhaled, long and tired. "Well, she's not the only one who lost a sister. You're pushing away your whole family. I hope that's worth it to you." I let that hang in the air for a moment before responding. "I'm not the one who threw my family away, Mom. Janet did that all by herself." And then I hung up. After that, things got better. My home felt lighter. My stress levels dropped. I focused on my pregnancy, on my husband, on the life we were building together. Caleb and I didn't talk much, but I heard through mutual friends that he was doing great. He dodged a bullet, and I had no doubt he knew it. As for Janet, last I heard she finally got a job. It wasn't a high-paying gig, but it was something. She was still living with Mom, still licking her wounds. Maybe she'd turn things around, or maybe she'd keep making the same mistakes. Either way, it wasn't my problem anymore. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't even bitter. I was just done. For the first time in years, I was free.